At 18, my dad passed away. And I was getting in a lot of trouble. And so when my dad passed away, everything shifted for me. I had a specific group of friends that I would always hang out with. We would drink together, we would hang out, we would party, all these different things. Cut them all off. I said, my dad just died at 51 years old. I have no idea how long I'm gonna be here. It's time to turn it on.
Welcome to the Real Estate Level Up podcast. I have a lot of exciting things to share with you today, but I'm looking forward to introducing this guest to you. This is someone I've known now for several years, someone who is doing great in the real estate investing business, also has his realtor's license, and he's in the Georgia market, does some of this virtually, some in person, but most importantly, I think he'll share some struggles he's had, both as a teen and in the last 5 years. He's now 23 years old, 24. And he started investing in real estate at 18. 24, just had a birthday. My bad. So I want you to join me in welcoming Marcel Sunday. What's up, brother?
What's up, Andrew? Happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Good to see you, man. So he's chatting before this, was getting the energy up a little bit. So I want to continue the conversation kind of as it was before we started rolling. And just take me back. By the way, remind me, how long have we known each other?
We've known each other for 3 years, at least. I would say maybe pushing towards 4 years.
I'd say you're about right. So Leo, who's my business partner, introduced us several years ago. So you found Leo through social media. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Let's take everybody on that journey.
Yeah. So I was a 19-year-old kid, trying to figure out how to find the right mastermind group, find the right people to be around. And I watched a YouTube video. And the YouTube video was like, reach out to 2 or 3 people that you like on Instagram and just send them a video. I was like, all right. Saw Leo Valentino on Instagram. I believe he was 18 at the time. I sent him a quick video just telling him about how I love his content. He's like, yeah, man, let's get on a call. We got on a call. We ended up becoming great friends. And years later, he introduced me to Andrew.
That's fire, man. And then, so you and Leo became friends. He introduced you to me. And then tell us a little bit about, because you've done over 100 deals now. And a lot of cool things that you do in business I want to talk about, but taking us kind of through that journey, we started connecting, and I want you to take everyone back to the background. We started connecting, and I was blown away by your story. Losing your dad at a young age, just really having, as you say, a troubled childhood, being a troubled teen. Like, take us through that journey prior to connecting with Leo and then meeting me and then starting a flourishing real estate investing business. Like, who was that Marcel, and where did that shift take place?
Yeah. So I'll take you guys back about 7 years ago, before I had ever gotten into real estate, before I even really knew that real estate was going to be the vehicle that I was going to use. I was in school selling candy, shoes, basically anything that I could get my hands on, all the way from 10 years old, all the way up until around 17 years old. I wasn't the best kid. A lot of you guys out there as well, I'm sure is similar. I was getting in trouble in school. I was fighting. I was talking when the teacher was talking. So they were sending me to suspension and different things like that. And so I was a troubled teen. I was getting in a lot of fights, and I was getting in a lot of trouble. At 18, my dad passed away. And so when my dad passed away, everything shifted for me. I had a specific group of friends that I would always hang out with. We would drink together, we would hang out, we would party, all these different things. Cut them all off. I said, my dad just died at 51 years old. I have no idea how long I'm gonna be here. It's time to turn it on. And what I did from that day on, to make it easy for myself to actually remove myself from that situation, I actually moved. I moved to North Carolina. And when I was in North Carolina, I was working on getting my real estate license during that process, during that time. And during that time is when I started to reach out to people on Instagram. And during that time is actually when I met Leo virtually on social media through Instagram. And during that time period, I was struggling. I was very, very lost. I was trying to find my way as an 18-year-old, trying to get into real estate, trying to maneuver like, should I be a real estate agent? Should I get into wholesaling? I heard about creative, all these different things. I had no idea what to exactly get into just yet. Ended up working for somebody, being an acquisitions manager for a little bit, for a wholesale company, just a few months later, after I had gotten my real estate license. And then I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this thing on my own. And just like a lot of you guys, I didn't have the right guidance when I first started. And so when I was trying it on my own, I called a friend. His name was Leo Valentina. You guys might know him. I said, Leo, what do I do, bro? I've been cold calling every day for the past month, and it just doesn't seem like it's working the way that I want it to. He's like, dude, because you're probably doing it wrong. Talk to my buddy, Andrew. Okay. So I get on the phone with Andrew. Andrew chats with me for, I want to say about 15 to 20 minutes, and he guides me a little bit. He said, hey, start making your calls a little bit differently. Start making your calls like this. Over time, a few months came along. I started to eventually work for Andrew as well because I was gaining so much value from all the things that he was teaching me. I was like, how much more value can I get from working with this guy on his team? So I worked for him for a bit as a dispositions manager, doing lease options, helping him sell lease options. If you guys listen to Andrew's podcast and different things like that, I'm sure you guys know about the Bofslow method. Andrew is the goat of this stuff. So the type of deals that I saw him get would blow my mind. And I knew that that's eventually what I wanted to do as well. Get into the creative space, do lease options, learn about the Bofslow method and different things like that. And years later, we're here. We've done over 100 deals now, mixed with wholesale, creative, agent stuff. And we're excited to continue to build up the portfolio and excited to see where it takes us next.
So in 100 deals, 23 years old, I'm assuming everything's always gone basically perfect for you, right?
Not even close. Not at all.
Tell me about this. Sometimes in hearing, because I want to get into a little bit, you just got back from Ghana, seeing your mom. I want to talk about your wrestling. I want to talk about some of those things. But before we get there, more about you, I want to dig deeper. The 24-year-old Marcel, who now has done over 100 deals, who has been seemingly crushing it, except there's been some problems.
Oh, yeah.
You've had your first lawsuit. You've had your first problems. You've had not every partnership go perfectly. Like, as much as you're comfortable sharing, if you don't mind, get into the weeds a little bit about some of the things you might would have done differently. And I asked this question for a very specific reason. You mentioned coming to work with me. It was an incredible time. And then watching you blossom and start your own business. But you, like me, and some who might be listening to this going, shoot, I figured out this Bofslow thing. I'm going to go crush it. Except it's so important to never stop leveling up, because your revenue, your income will always come back down to meet your personal development. Ask me how I know. Ask Marcel how he knows. And so tell me a little bit about that. Like, what's been the shifts that you could have or would have made that would have been a little different, and what has gone wrong?
Yeah. So, oh man, to start, so many things went wrong. I know a lot of you guys, you hear me, you hear Andrew, how Andrew's done over 600 deals. You hear me, how I've done over 100 deals. And you must think that everything went perfect. So many things went wrong during this process. So let me tell you guys a little bit about that. One of those things was, having the right thought process and asking myself the right questions before I get into a partnership. That's one of the things I didn't do. And so I got into a partnership thinking to myself that once I partner with this person, we'll be able to grow 10 times as fast. And if we're able to grow 10 times as fast, we'll be able to make 10 times as much money, and life will be easier. That's not what happened. So what I ended up realizing is I have specific skills and specific things that I'm really good at, and the other person needs to have the other skills that would allow the project or partnership to be a success. But within that time period of that partnership, we realized that we weren't a great mesh. Through that, we had contractors steal hundreds of thousands of dollars from us. And through that, because private money.
Not to beat up on you, but you shouldn't have been fixing and flipping.
I know. So that's something that Andrew always talks about. Don't fix and flip. Because you'll think you'll make 60, 70, 80 grand. I remember calling Andrew during this time period. I had maybe at least 10 flips going on at the time. And I'm like, Andrew, I've got $500,000 worth of profit potential in the pipeline. Andrew goes, okay, nice. See how much you make. Long story short, we ended up losing tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the reason why that is, one, a bad partnership mistake, and two, picking the wrong contractors. And, throughout that process, it taught me many different things about the real estate business. It's not all sunshine and gold like it might look. You might run into issues. You might have tenant problems. You might have contractors who say the project's going to be $20,000 and it ends up being $50,000. But when those times happen, I started to realize that I started to cripple a little bit. What would happen was I used to go to the gym every day. I used to read books every day. I used to do all of these different things from a personal development standpoint, like Andrew just mentioned. And when I started to go through these headaches and challenges, I stopped doing those things. I stopped doing them completely. I said, I'm just going to focus on work. Got to focus on work. Got to focus on work. And I realized that that's not the way. That was not the way at all.
Something you said, Marcel, and I want to mention there, because somebody listening to this who's experienced might be judging that, going, well, crap, you screwed that up. Somebody else who's brand new is going, holy crap, if that's what happened, like, how do I avoid those pitfalls? And I think there's something very important takeaway here, because something I've noticed over my life, and you've already experienced in yours, is for me, every major quantum leap that I've had has been because of an incredible mentorship or partnership or combination of both. Every major setback or problem I faced has been because of a poor choice of partnership. Not that that's everybody else's decision. And it's my fault. I chose the partner. So I'm not putting off the blame, except for everyone here listening to this, there's such a power in that. Because you hear Marcel talk about a quantum leap, about meeting Leo, about coming and working us together, and you started crushing it. And then things went sideways, contractors compounding on negative. And there's something all of us have. We have 24 hours in a day. But there's something I ask, what's your ROF? What's your return on focus? Because probably, depending on how your energy is managed, the reality is, Marcel, you get up early as I get up early. There's only so many hours of a day that you're focused. After I get up most mornings at 4 something or 5 something, come along about 5 or 6 p.m., even though I'm awake, I may still knock out something or do something. My focus is shot. And I really, probably everyone listening to this, if you think about it, you only have a certain amount of minutes or hours a day that is actual great focus time. And in those time, if you're focused on partnerships, contractors, flips, which is why I preach against flips. But anyway, I've done my share of them. You've done your share. And I know there's a time and place for them. A lot of people make a lot of money with them. But Bobslow just is a whole lot better route, in my opinion. But for diving into this, Marcel, what's some things, looking back, that you now realize, gosh, here's something I should have noticed a lot sooner that I didn't?
So the number one thing is, if someone shows you something, I would say believe them, right? That's the first one. So when you're partnering with somebody, make sure that you're paying attention to this person's characteristics, their personality. Do you guys really mesh, right? Do you guys really vibe? Is this person really bringing in the things that you might not have, right? And it doesn't always need to be that you guys are best friends. And sometimes that can also be detrimental because a lot of people get into partnerships because it's like, oh, it's my buddy. This is my dog. Let's get into a partnership. But the reality is you got to ask yourself, does it really make sense to get into this partnership? Am I doing it because of a friend or maybe a feeling? You have to really start to think about it in a way where it has to make sense for everyone. And one thing that I learned within that is, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Does your partner complement those weaknesses? And if they do not, you want to really sit there and think about that partnership and see if it makes sense.
Something that you said there, and it's everyone listening to this, it's know yourself too, right? What do you need? And for me, of course, being on both sides of that coin, having, as you have, experienced great partnerships, great opportunities, and also ones that wasn't a fit, knowing, hey, if I know myself well, and I know the person, in my case, I'm partnered with one of my closest friends. Leo's my business partner. My brother runs our sales team, and my sister runs so there's certain things there that are incredible, except there's also a lot of pitfalls along that. And what you said, make sure you're judging based on merit always, right? Same with a deal. Look at the numbers. Can't get emotionally attached to the story that goes along with a deal. So what's the model, Marcel, coming out of incredible growth, also some bumps in the road, some things that went sideways, some losses, and now, building things to the next level? What's some things you're excited about working on that are going really well that you just plan on 2026 blowing through the roof?
Yeah. So some things that I'm working on that, I plan on really taking to the next level is just like my wholesale business, right? My wholesale business, we're really starting to ramp everything up. We're starting to do a lot more wholesales. We're starting to open up into other markets. If you guys know about me, I do deals in Savannah, Georgia. So if you guys ever get deals in Savannah, feel free to reach out to me. But we're starting to ramp up. We're starting to do deals a little bit farther away from Savannah as well. Starting to do more hotels. We're starting to partner with more agents. So I'm really excited about that this year. I believe we'll be able to do probably double the amount of deals we did last year with our plan for 2026.
Why do you think that consistency beats talent in this business?
Because Andrew told me something years ago, and he said, Marcel, the number one thing that you need to pay attention to is the snowball that you're building. And I didn't get that at first. And a lot of people, you start dialing for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, you're like, man, I haven't gotten a deal. But the snowball that you're starting to build up is what's going to shock you. So even for me in 2025, I had tons of leads in my system. The thing that you'll realize with a lot of these leads is they might not be ready right now, but they're going to be ready later down in the future. So as you start to follow up with these leads, you start to have more conversations with these people, you start to realize that you start getting contract after contract after contract. And so that's what's happened to me. That snowball really started to pick up. Think about it. If you got a small snowball that starts on a hill and you start to roll it down.
I love your mic, by the way. Keep going.
My pencil mic. And you start to roll it down, you realize it starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And eventually you've got a snowball like Andrew's snowball where he's doing commercial stuff and a lot of different things like that. So that's the biggest thing that I would say. Make sure you focus on that snowball and you don't give up because that next deal is right around the corner.
So that leads me, such a powerful illustration you just described. I to call it the snowball effect or the compounding effect. And we often underestimate what year 2 and 3 and 5, if we just put in the reps. Yes, year 1. Yes, first 3 months, 6 months. I want you to get a check when you start a business. Of course, we all want to, except we often underestimate what that compounding effect, what that snowball looks like. Coming, Marcel, from your background, your mom being a realtor, she lives in Ghana. Your dad passing away, unfortunately, as you're a teen, troubled teen. A lot of things in your past you've talked to me about privately that you're not proud of. And knowing that version of Marcel and knowing the version of Marcel that many people only see from front facing, right? The one who is 24 and confident and crushing it on the phones. Like, how did you manage to never, because I often say you make money or make excuses, but you can't make both.
Yes.
And I hear so many people who come from certain backgrounds or certain disadvantages, they would say,
Yes.
and then use that as the story they tell themselves for the next 5, 10, 20, 50 years of, I can't do this because I X. And you hit lots of reasons to not succeed, but you said, you know what, I'm going to keep going anyway. Where did that come from? Was that part of the fighting mentality you had from your days doing that, or what was that mentality and how did it grow?
Yeah, so to start off, honestly, I'm going to give that one to my mom. So to tell you guys a little bit about the way my mom grew up, my mom is from Africa. She's from Ghana. And when she grew up, she had to share one pair of underwear with 4 sisters. And she was able to eventually work extremely hard to get to the United States, eventually start a family there, raise us in a beautiful suburban neighborhood. And one thing that my mom would always tell me is, son, you can do anything that you put your mind to. She would constantly say this to me to the point where it felt like it was annoying. It's like, Mom, whatever. But as I started to grow up and I started to become an adult, life started to get hard. And when life started,
like, young man, you got 4 underwears. Be thankful.
I know, right? And so, when life started to get hard, and I would deal with contractors stealing from me, lawsuits, and different things like that, I would constantly think about what my mother said. My mom would always say, son, you can do whatever you put your mind to. And then when I would call her when I was an adult, she would say, you will win no matter what if you don't stop. And when she said that to me the first time, because, I'm always calling mom, I run into a problem, I'm like, Mom, and, she'll chat with me and give me some of her advice or whatever that may be. And when she told me that, it lit a fire under my butt. I don't think I made calls for a week because I was upset about something. That, 30 minutes after that, I had a 4 or 5 hour dial session. So I would say I would give it to my mom. My mom really taught me that if she can get here to the United States and do as well as she did from where she's from, I should be able to take it to the next level.
That's powerful. And I think, Marcel, that perspective that you lead with, it was funny. I remember years ago when you come and was working physically out in Kentucky and Indiana for a few months there. And it was an incredible time. And so in doing so, I remember the first time I heard you really crushing it on the phone. I hadn't heard you do calls for a bit. And I hear you talking on the phone and I'm going, I swear that's a recording of me. And it was because you had taken so well. You was so coachable and you started to do what worked. What would you say has made you so coachable? Because in some ways confidence is awesome, but also you've had the humility to be a student and be so coachable in the areas where you knew you was a beginner. How do you manage that?
Yeah. And I think that sports back in school really, really helped me with that. If you guys played sports back in school, you know that if you don't listen to your coach, you're not going to grow. It's not going to happen. I played football. I was a wrestling state champion. And with that, I realized that every time that I listened to my coach to a T, I won. And so through that, I kind of took that along and said, if somebody has done exactly what I want to do, or somebody is where I want to be one day, I need to make sure that I do the things that they did to allow them to get there. So that's what really allowed me to be a bit more coachable through high school sports.
What would you say is, as much as you're comfortable sharing, I have 2 more questions before we wrap. As much as you're comfortable sharing, what are you excited about? I know you work out, you inspire me. I swear you work out 1 week in the gym and you're like perfect 6-pack, jacked. I'm like, I don't know how you do it. But with your workout, with your past in the MMA, various things that you've done, what's the next 5 years, 10 years outside of real estate, outside of building that empire? What do you want that to look like for Marcel?
So for me, the next 10 years is more on impact, right? More on helping people build themselves up in the ways that I've been able to build myself up, whether that be going to the gym, whether that be maybe understanding people, whether that be sales psychology. The next 10 years for me is really putting as much time as possible into impacting the next level, the next people that are coming up. One thing I wish I had was a 24-year-old or a 25-year-old who was talking to me, when I was 18 or 19 or 20, who's just a few steps ahead, who can tell me some of the mistakes that he made, some of the issues that he went through, so I can avoid those myself. So my goal within the next 10 years is really just pouring back into the people the same way Andrew poured into me that allowed me to get to where I am today.
I love that, man. I appreciate that perspective and always enjoy our chats, and this one happens to be recorded. And I'm excited what that's going to look like for you, man, as you come out of the getting punched a little bit, as you come out of some tough times, some decisions that wasn't productive for you. And I want to really, my prayer is for you listening to this. Somebody's listening going, maybe either A, they haven't got started yet, or B, they've been cranking but sometimes feeling a little stuck. And I trust this will be an inspiration to you, going, well, crap, if that 24-year-old already has done 100 deals and got punched, just get through the nose. Just get through the mistakes. And sometimes the thing I found, and I know you found this, is the biggest missteps that I have made is either when I went against my own tuition or when and I know this, you and I have talked about this, when you felt too, I don't know if ashamed or embarrassed is the word, but almost too ashamed or embarrassed to ask for help because you're like, crap, I kind of made a stupid decision here. And the moment we can say, you know what, I realize I just made a stupid decision. Let me make the call to the guy who's been there, and something I'll share, because you watching this, Marcel being part now the last several months of the mastermind community. And, we had a chat the other day and we're chatting, and I find out about this thing that's going on in his business. And it's been like 3 weeks since it's been going on. And I said, bro, like, you have my cell phone. Why didn't you text me? And he's like, I hated to bother you, man. And I of course, appreciate you for that. That's always kind, except it's like, bro, text me already. Because I know that what you spent 7 hours and probably $20,000 to figure out, a text and a 6-minute conversation would solve. And that's a takeaway I want all of you go ahead. You have something to add to that.
No, I was just saying 100%.
And that's what I want for anybody listening to this. Like, that's the importance of being surrounded by the right people and plugging into the right people. Because when you surround yourself with that person, of course, as no secret, that's why Leo and I launched Truca, because I'm going, gosh, I wish this is the community I would have had whenever I got punched in the face and lost over $3 million in a year. And so I just commend you for your tenacity, and I'm excited what the next even 24 months are going to look like. But my last question for you, how do people reach you? You're in Savannah, Georgia. You're doing deals. Somebody's going, crap, I want to connect with this dude. Yeah, how do they reach out to you?
For sure. So on Instagram, I am at Marcel Sunday. You guys can reach out to me on Facebook, Marcel Sunday as well. TikTok, Real Estate with Sell. And you guys can also just text me if you like. My number is 240-870-0891.
That's a brave man putting his phone number out there. I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you so much for having
guys,
me,
thanks
Andrew.
Thanks for joining us today, Marcel. Thank you for being here, man. And I look forward to seeing you, in a couple weeks at our next retreat, man. It's going to be a good time.
Yes, it will. Thank you, Andrew.